lot since then. They offer a lot of products, many nutritional in nature. But at that point in time, what they offered was skincare products. And society and culture has changed over the years. But at that point in time, 35 years ago, there were very, very few men who used skincare products. And there were no men living in the rural part of America where I lived who were using skincare products. And so the idea of being involved in a company whose principal message was helping people eliminate these pesky wrinkles between my eyebrows, right? That just wasn't me. It's just not me. And so I was struggling with whether or not I could do it. And when my friend today said, I just don't know, Randy, if I want to learn all there is about AI, I remember thinking to myself, I don't want to learn all there is about skincare. I mean, this guy was talking about NAACP moisture mist and how every molecule could draw more moisture to it than 10,000 times its weight. And I sat there, I listened to that, and I said, man, that is not a message that I'm interested in delivering. It's just not me. And I remember he had a product that was supposed to moisturize your skin. And he used as a comparative point a product called Draconnois. And he would squirt some of that stuff into his hand. You can buy it at Nordstrom's and nice stores. And then he would light it on fire and he was holding his hand burning and saying, does this look like it would add moisture to your skin? And I sat and I watched that. I said, that's really cool, but it's just not me. And so, and I told Nathan, I said, it's just not me, Nathan. And he said, Randy, what we're creating is distribution. The question is not, do you want to use that product? The question is, do other people want to use it? The question is not, do you use skincare products? The question is, do other people use them? And so, in creating distribution, one need not have a tremendous love for a particular product idea. And by the way, in this case, I do. In the case of Lev A.I, I have not had a product or service offering that has so fired my imagination since I stuck my toe in the waters of entrepreneurship. But when she said that, I remembered what I felt like when I just didn't want to get excited about talking about a skincare product. It wasn't me. I didn't want to learn it. I didn't want to gather the new knowledge and the new talking points. And then Nathan said, no, Randy, what we're going to do is create distribution and you're going to earn royalties. Does it really matter to you whether the royalties you're earning are being earned as a result of a product that you particularly like, enjoy, and have chosen to become skilled in delivering a message about? Or are you happy enough earning royalties either way? That's what I'm happy enough earning royalties either way. Then he said, what one should do is not look at the product from a standpoint of how knowledgeable do you want to become and how much do you want to talk about the product? He said, make your product be the opportunity. And so that's what I did. And that worked for me for a very, very long time and still will work. And so when I contemplate the product offering, then I contemplate it from the market realities. And here are the simple market realities. Remember, there are 5 elements required for success. And by the way, that first experience that I had was with a company called Nu Skin. And I simply had absolutely no interest in using the company's product. I mean, absolutely none. What I had an interest in was earning royalties because other people used the product. That was where my interest was. Then my second experience, and the reason that I moved on from that had nothing to do with the product offering or anything else. It had to do with a point of controversy that the company experienced. They were accused by the Federal Trade Commission of being a pyramid scheme, and they won that. That Nu Skin won that argument. They were not a pyramid scheme, and they are not. And they became foundational. That litigation became foundational law in the future of the direct selling industry. But I didn't have the staying power. I just couldn't wait for Nu Skin to be proven right. And so as they went through that litigation, I had to go. I had to move on. I had to generate income now, not a year and a half from now when they won their litigation. And so I got involved with a company called Rexall Showcase International. Now, this time it was an easier move for me. The company was delivering a product that I didn't need. I was 32 years old. And if any of you on here are 32 years old, if I ask you, what is your cholesterol? You don't know. You just don't know. Why? Because you don't care, because you've not yet begun to feel your mortality. If I were to ask you, what is your triglycerides number? You don't know. If I were to ask you, what is the difference in good cholesterol and bad cholesterol? You don't know. And so, but this time it wasn't challenging for me. I didn't need the product, but I had bought into this idea. And from a product standpoint, this is the idea that I am encouraging you all to buy into right now, separate and distinct from whether you buy into the idea that AI is a talking point. And if you choose not to become a part of that in many conversations, you'll simply be on the outside. But let's set that aside. I didn't want to talk about skincare and I didn't want to talk about cholesterol. And then I was introduced to an idea of earning market share that we do not need to take from someone else. If we can earn market share that we don't need to take from someone else, then that creates a different kind of opportunity. That concept was introduced to me as I read a book called The Age Wave, and it was authored by a gentleman named Ken Dykewald. And he taught me about demographics. Now, my message to you right now is not a demographic message, but the message that the information that I learned back in those days becomes highly, highly appropriate for this specific moment in time. So he was talking about demographics. First, the first concept was let it be that we earn market share from a business standpoint now. Let it be that we earn market share that is newly developing market share as opposed to competing with another to take market share they already have. And so, a couple of pictures that will make this maybe come a little bit more clear to you. Let's imagine for a moment that this is the market for anything, for whatever it is that we choose to provide to consumers. This is the market. Well, let's imagine for a moment that here's Randy and I'm in the market. And over here, I noticed this morning that my friend Tammy is here, right? And so I'm in the market and Tammy's in the market. Tammy's better than me. She works harder than me. She's more skilled than me. And so Tammy has 55% of the market and I have 45% of the market. But we're both succeeding. And people can tell that we are succeeding. Success is not hidden. Success is not anonymous in most cases. People can see the neighborhoods we live in. My gosh, Tammy lives in an extraordinarily beautiful home. She's succeeding. People can tell by the schools that our children or our grandchildren go to what our level of success is. They can tell by the cars that we drive. They can tell by the shops that we frequent. Success does not hide. And one does not have to be a flamboyant, egotistical one. I mean, success doesn't hide. And the more successful one becomes, the more evident it becomes to other people. Not so many days ago, we were out at dinner with Tammy and her husband, John, and success doesn't hide. I took a look and I could see that John was wearing a really, really nice pair of boots. And I knew the second I looked at them, they were Lucchese. I knew that. And that's the standard. You see, the higher up the scale one goes, the more the subtle evidence of success are. One who's never owned a pair of Lucchese boots probably would not have recognized those as Lucchese. Success does not hide, success is obvious. And so here we are, we're both in the market and we're both succeeding. Now that's attractive, isn't it? That's attractive. And so suddenly, because of that attraction, Paul, he's out here on the outside looking in, and he sees the way that Tammy's living. He sees the way that Randy's living. He says, I want a piece of that. And so he comes right into the market, that darn Paul. And when he does, he earns market share. And some comes from Randy and some comes from Tammy. That is competition. And if the market in which we function is staying the same size, then what it will do is draw new participants into the market until such time as that which was attractive stops being attractive because it's drawn enough people into it that suddenly those incomes are going down, not up. It's reached a point of society where one more person coming in causes one person to go out. That's the way that it is if we operate in a market that is competitive. Now, there could be some outside force or pressure or dynamic that is causing the market to get smaller. When that occurs, then not only is there not room for a new participant, but one of the existing participants will get squeezed out. That is happening on an ongoing rotating basis in the economy. There are certain jobs, careers, avocations, product ideas for which the market is growing. There are always those for which the market is staying about the same size. And there are always those for which the market is getting smaller because times change, because the population shifts in its purchasing desires, because it gets older, because it gets younger, because the demographic mix changes, because of recession, because of. If the market's getting smaller, then people are forced out. But what if there is some outside force or pressure or dynamic? It's big, it's powerful, it's beyond our control. We couldn't stop it if we wanted to. The market is getting bigger, and it's getting bigger fast. Now you see a new participant. Now, this Paul, he can carve out this piece for himself without taking it from Randy or Tammy because it was market share that didn't exist yesterday. It was because today there were this number of people who wanted to buy it, and tomorrow there was this number of people who wanted to buy it. And so the concept, the idea was if we want to have relatively little resistance, or my eraser is here. If we want to have, oh, there we go. If we want to have relatively little or less resistance in our business growth, then what we should do is identify arenas where the demand for a particular product or idea is going to grow more quickly than the currently available web of knowledgeable providers of that product or service can address. Now there's new market share that can be earned by a new person without being taken from another. And so, with that in mind, he then taught me a model that worked incredibly well for me for a long time. And only now is it beginning to wear its way out. He taught me that there was a great big bulge in society shaped just like a football, that it started out with the burst of 1946. It grew and it grew and it peaked out in 58. It tapered off and it ended in 1964. This, of course, is the baby boom. It's one third of all USA population and a similar percentage of the Western European world, a similar percentage of some Asian markets. But this was specific to the US market when he was teaching it. And what he taught me was that if we take this bulge in society and imagine it progressing its way through life, imagine this is a football and this is a garden hose. These children who were born in 1946, in 1947, they were 1 year old. And when they were 1 year old, guess what happened? That created demand for products and services that did not exist before because now there was this enormous web of people. By the time this bulge of society inches forward, every time it moves forward, it forced that bulge, it forced that market to grow so dramatically that new participants could earn market share without taking it from the old. And so, having read the book The Age Wave, having come to understand the dynamic, or I guess even in advance of the age wave, having become intrigued with the concept of demographics, and then having those concepts be solidified when I read The Age Wave, what I came to realize was that in 1976, the leading edge of this crowd started turning 30 years old at the rate of 10,000 people per day, 10,000 per day. And when they started turning 30 years old, you know what happened? They found out that their metabolic rate was going down at the rate of 1% per year. You know what else happened? They found out that their activity level was going down. They were becoming more busy. They were becoming parents. They were exercising less. Their metabolic rate was going down. And the result of that was that America started its process towards becoming the most obese society in the developed world. There's opportunity associated with that. And that was what I acted upon when I started my first company. My first entrepreneurial experience was when I launched a company called Professional Diet Systems. I launched that company because why? Because I was able to earn market share that was not being addressed by anybody else. 10,000 people per day started turning 30, 10,000 people per day for the first time started to experience weight gain. And there I was. Now, this bulge of society, it doesn't stand still, does it? Move it forward a little while, and suddenly, instead of these kids being zero, or excuse me, 18 and these being zero, instead of these being 30 and these being 12, now suddenly these started turning 50. And when they started turning 50, what happened? They began to feel their mortality. Ask a 26-year-old, what's your cholesterol? I have no idea. Ask a 50-year-old, what's your cholesterol? They can tell you. They began to feel their mortality. They went off to the doctor. They found out they had a higher than desirable cardiac risk factor. They wanted a cholesterol reduction agent. And so there I was, 10,000 people per day turning 50 years old, 10,000 people every day who didn't care yesterday about cholesterol, and today they did. And that turned into my biggest financial success. The moment that I said yes to that opportunity until I had sold my distributorship and moved on, it was more than a $25 million personal gain for me as a result of earning market share that otherwise did not exist. I didn't have to take it from somebody else. Continue to move that ball forward to my next real success. That next real success was as the master distributor of a company called Canaway. We participated in the end of the prohibition of cannabis. Who do you suppose fueled that? The aging baby boom generation, the hippie crowd, no longer simply concerned about the party getting high, but now wanting the anti inflammatory effects of cannabis, wanting to reduce the effects of aging, and on and on and on. All of this driven by demographics, all of it driven by the fact that as that bulge in society moved forward, there was a new market that didn't exist yesterday. Now, this is not a demographic message. That's not why I bring this to your attention. Why do I do it? I do it because today, literally today, it's not that 10,000 people decided they wanted to lose weight. It's not that 10,000 people today turned 50 and had a concern with cholesterol reduction. It's not that 10,000 people per day said, we've had enough of this. We're going to fight for the end of the prohibition of cannabis. No, it's that 178,000 people today will use AI for the first time. 178,000 people used AI yesterday for the first time. 178,000 people will use AI tomorrow for the first time. That will continue until it is projected that by the time 4.5 years from now go by, 90% of planet Earth will have adopted AI. 90%, folks. And the vast majority, today, 3% globally have got their toe in the water someplace trying to figure it out. So if my career, a career that has produced $5 billion in sales, a career that amazingly has produced in my own life experience 29 consecutive years of over $1 million in annual royalties produced by network marketing companies. Always, not sometimes, always, because I put myself in front of environments where the market for what the company would provide was growing more rapidly than the existing ability of knowledgeable people to provide the service. I was there when 10,000 new people a day wanted to lose weight. I didn't have to take the customer away from Weight Watchers. I was there when 10,000 people a day suddenly wanted to reduce their cholesterol and they didn't want to use statin drugs, and I didn't have to take the market away from anybody. I was there when thousands of people every day wanted the anti-inflammatory effects, the anxiety reduction, the seizure disorder reduction, the on and on and on it goes, the reduction of pain from chemotherapy. I was there when an entire population said, we want this to be legal, and I benefited from it. And now, where do we find? It's not 10,000 a day, folks. It's 178,000 people per day opting in to utilize AI for the first time. Now, does it really matter how much you know about it? I would argue that matters not at all. What do I know about weight loss? Absolutely nothing. Well, let me take that back. What I do know is this: if we consume 3,500 more calories in a day than we burn off in calorie expenditure, then we'll gain weight. That's the extent of what I know. Okay. How much do I know about cholesterol and cholesterol reduction? And how much do I know about good cholesterol, bad cholesterol? Am I a doctor? Am I a nutrition expert? No. You see, this person who sent me a message today, Randy, I don't know if I want to become an expert in AI. I'm never going to be an expert in AI. It's not what I am. I am an expert in identifying products, the demand for which is growing more quickly than the market currently provides, and creating royalties as a result of establishing distribution networks for that product, which is in demand. That is what I know how to do. And that is why this is the single biggest moment of opportunity in my life and in yours. Because I've done $5 billion in sales in my groups, folks, because I got in front of products where new people were being added to the potential product user mix at the rate of 10,000 per day. That is what has fueled my career. That's it. Not all the other side effects. That is what has fueled my career. Now it's no longer 100. Now it's no longer 10,000 a day. It's 178,000 per day. And that is why Sundar Pichai said, this is bigger, more profound than fire or electricity or anything that we have done in the past. If you want to, if you want to attract increasing numbers of customers for the product, then there is logic in gathering at least rudimentary knowledge about how the product competes with other products in the marketplace. That's if your primary message will be about the physical, tangible, consumable subscription. If, on the other hand, your primary message is about creating distribution for that product and thereby earning royalties, then one need have no more knowledge about AI than I had about weight loss when I was 25 years old and weighed 130. You need to have no more knowledge about AI than I had about cholesterol reduction when at 32 years old, the leading edge of the baby boom started turning 50 at the rate of 10,000 per day. And as one who has been in recovery, I mean, drugs and alcohol have been a major problem in my life. I promise you, everybody, all of you out there know more about cannabis than I do because it's outside of my wheelhouse. But did that mean that I should not create distribution once it had been shown that I was creating distribution for a product that was helping countless people and that it did not have the same addictive properties that cocaine and other things might have? Now, that being said, I'm not talking about recovery right now. But what I'm talking about is the fact that if you choose to become highly knowledgeable about the physical, about the tangible product we offer, the AI solution, that will reward you in many ways. That will reward you. But if you choose not to, you will not be penalized by that choice to the extent that you learn how to create distribution. If you come to understand that there is a product and service that 178,000 people are adopting on a daily basis, and they're not changing providers, they are selecting a first provider 178,000 times per day. So that's 17.8 times what has created my biggest financial successes. 17.8 times that which has resulted in me earning commissions in excess of $50 million over the course of my career. That is why this is described as being bigger than fire or electricity or anything else that we have experienced in the past. Second element required for success is a company that can execute. And so if we have a product that people want to buy, and you know what, here's the case. As we talk about Lev A.I, we have a product that people will be compelled to buy whether or not they want to. Do you want to buy a new computer when yours wears out? Well, maybe you do and maybe you don't, but do you really have a choice? you have to be computerized. Do you really have a choice? Could you just decide today, you know what, I'm not going to use the internet anymore? I think that's bad, not good. Could you really do that and survive and function in society? Could you decide today, you know what, I'm just not going to use a phone anymore? I am just tired of telephone calls. Could you do that and function in society? No. That's how ridiculous it will sound to people a decade from now when they're asked, could you just not use AI? Could you just stand down and say no? Well, no, they're going to say yes. They don't have any choice. And since they're going to say yes, then we should select a company that we know that can deliver. And so that's why it's important that Terry Lacore Enterprises is the owner of the company. That's why it's important that my son, Blake Schrader, is the president of the company. That is also why it is important that the company has a very, very robust tech team. That this is not a company who is buying a back office software from somebody else, for example. This is a company that is in the actual development process. That is of critical importance. Why? Because today's technology is old tomorrow, literally. Today's technology is old tomorrow. Tomorrow's technology is old the next day. And in the world of AI, nothing has yet moved so fast in its development process. And so having access to financial resources, having evidenced in the past the vision of seeing where the ball is going. And one of my great friends was Major League Baseball player, now retired, coaches now. And he told me, he said, the great ones, Randy, the great ones instinctively at the crack of the bat before the eye can see the flight of the ball, that instinctively at the crack of the bat the great ones are running towards where the ball is going to go. They can see it. They can see it by the angle of the swing. They can see it by the stance. They can just sense it. They know it. It's intuitive. The crack of the bat, the ball's not even in flight yet where you can see it, and they're moving towards where the ball is going to go. Terry Lacore is a man who has proven in his career to be always moving towards the ball is going to be, as opposed to chasing after the ball where it was. He is one who has proven it is easy. Look over the course of his career. His whole career has been about intuitively knowing, instinctively being aware of where the ball is going to go, and then surrounding himself with outstanding executors of his vision. And so Terry is the man with the vision. He sees where the ball is going to go. He has selected my son Blake as the chief, as the not the chief executive officer, but as the president, the chief executive who is running the business and executing the vision that Terry has outlined. And the third element required for success is timing that is clear, that is obvious, and beyond refute. In this case, in our discussion of the product timing, I don't really need to say anything else. 178,000 people are going to use AI for the first time today, and they're going to do it whether you introduce them or not. They're going to do it whether you become knowledgeable about AI or not. They're going to do it if you put your head in the bag and pretend that AI doesn't exist. 178,000 people are going to use it today for the first time, period. Now, when we take that product timing and we combine it with the fact that here we have at this flashpoint in time, and don't ever let these moments, don't take these moments for granted. At this particular instant in time, there is not a competitive force that we must deal with. Even if the market were satiated and we had this number of companies in equilibrium, the number of providers in equilibrium with the number of new users, even were that the case, there is no one who can effectively compete with our company's offering right now. Not in terms of its universal nature, not in terms of its catalyst nature, bringing all the applications together to speak with one, not in terms of pricing, not in terms of the digital clone, not in terms of the actual interactive digital clone, and on it goes. From a timing standpoint, where do you find yourself? You find yourself at the exact bottom left-hand corner of the graph with exactly none of the risks that are typically a part and a parcel of that positioning because of a superior product, incredible product timing, and an owner and operator who has proven for the last 3 decades that he knows where the ball is going. And he started moving towards where that ball would go at the crack of the bat. And that is why we today find ourselves with this profound opportunity. Now, the compensation plan, I understand because I've been involved in direct selling. And it's not unusual for almost all of the dialogue among direct selling professionals to circulate around the comp plan. It is the absolute fact that we must be willing, as we progress down the continuum of not just life, but business and evolution of industry and thought, that we must become willing to modify certain behaviors. one the most notable modification of compensation plan behavior here for most people who've been around direct selling is the heavy emphasis on customer acquisition. That is a shift in the industry. Customer acquisition, as opposed to having the vast majority of our volume be created by business builders. I think that a perfect world would be an almost equal 50-50 split, with half of our volume being pure customer volume, people who are using our product in their business and who are not using our product for their business. Excuse me, as a business. Certainly, I would never restrict anyone's participation. But the reality is that over the course of my career, because I've always until now delivered products that were more expensive, but always make the argument about how and why it was good, but it was always more expensive. We were able to succeed at that because we were dealing with a new person. It'd be a lot harder to cause a person who was spending $30 for an item to lower their cholesterol and have them to start spending 50. That would be a lot harder, wouldn't it, than to have their very first purchase be 50 because of the higher value that we presented to them. In this case, nobody is spending less money for what we offer. Nobody. You can't buy what we sell for less money. Therefore, that makes us that by itself means that customer acquisition is now a logical reality. Where mostly up until now, I've talked about the development of an internal consumption network, that we engage in a proved and predictable pattern of activities, which results in the creation of what? An ever expanding and potentially limitless web of consumers or users of the product. But I've always described it as a web of internal consumers. Why? Because those people outside of the web, they open their eyes and they look around and they say, wait a minute, I can buy a product like that for less money someplace else. I'm not participating in the compensation plan. And so I am simply going to go for the best price. Well, now in this case, we offer the best product and we offer the best price. And we're stepping into a market where 178,000 new people are saying yes to this idea of AI on a daily basis, whether or not we are the ones who provoke the conversation. And so that then creates an opportunity to build a web, an ever expanding and potentially limitless web of consumers of the service, half of which, if we do it well, will be inside. And these are they who cause the web itself to grow. And half of those will be outside the web. And these are those whose customer utilization stabilizes the growth so that we don't have the never ending peaks and valleys, momentum cycle, and crashes that the typical direct selling industry has provoked. So when we contemplate the timing, we then combine the product, we then consider that a little bit differently because the timing has changed a little bit when we have access to an entire global population of external consumers. That makes the ultimate value of the internal consumer, the network marketing professional who's creating the distribution. It makes their position more valuable. And it does then result in some changes in the way that we would compensate. Because why? Because we want everybody to have not just the handful of business builders who might build in depth. We want everybody to have dozens. And you heard that right, dozens or hundreds or thousands of customers. And those dozens or hundreds or thousands of customers is what stabilizes the business whenever there is a 100% predictable slowdown in recruiting. There will always be a slowdown in recruiting for one reason or another. And when there's a slowdown in recruiting, then you find out what is the true consuming value. Then you find out, are people really using this product for the sake of the product, or are they using it because it's fueling a compensation plan? In our case, this is the first time in my career where I can look to the future with confidence that the distribution network we create is not just based upon a momentum cycle that will play its way out in the next 3 or 4 or 5 years and go out and create another momentum cycle. A wise person will utilize this moment of profound opportunity, 178,000 people per day saying yes to AI. That going into a world right now where there has been, this is simply the truth, and not a statement of my opinion of that truth, but the distribution of income and wealth around the world has become much less equitable. I'm not saying it was equitable a decade ago, but it's become much less equitable in the years post COVID, where those really succeeding have become a much smaller percentage of society, their success becoming bigger and bigger as a percentage of the overall whole, the middle class being squeezed more, and almost no upward mobility from those struggling and trying to break through. That's the truth. That's what's going on out there. And so part of our timing message is the ability to create for people incomes that the current economic the set of realities right now are simply not creating. So that then requires that we pay people a little bit different. That's why we pay 20% up here on generation one, because we'll never get access to this huge number of external consumers unless we incent the leader to break their mold of only recruiting business builders, but to include now, not instead of, but in addition to, we need to create great big customer bases, all of us. We need to have countless, countless, countless people simply utilizing the service. Let it be that finally, for the first time in your network marketing career, you say, what? If nobody else ever joins me again, I am just fine because I've created such distribution. I have 50 customers who are using the product for the sake of the product, not because they're tied to the comp plan. I have 500, I have 5,000, and I have an entire web of people who has 50 or 500 or 5,000 external consumers, not tied to the company through the comp plan, but tied to the company through the utilization of a product which you do not need to understand. You need only understand that 178,000 people are going to start using AI today. You don't need to understand the product. You need to understand that dynamic. Why are they using it? They're using it because they'll be left behind in the economy if they don't. You're helping them do something they must do. You're not provoking the decision. You are helping them act upon a foregone conclusion. And that is why this is more profound than fire or electricity or anything we have seen in the past. And then finally, training and support. This is your opportunity. This is your value add. Your value add is to become knowledgeable in what allows other people to become financially successful utilizing this product and service. You'll have no difficulty finding people if the word gets out. Sally, she can show me how to be more successful. That Tammy, she can show me how to not just make more money more quickly, but how to have a stability of income stream, and how the very process of creating that network will help me become more happy as I gather new knowledge and develop more skills. See, when the word is on the street that you are that person, you are the one that they can be a conduit to, who will cause others to become more successful, you'll not have to look for candidates. They'll look for you. They'll search you out. Try hiding. They'll find you. They will. Folks, I chose today to deliver a message that was quite different, wasn't it, from what we've heard before? But that was because a highly, highly talented person said to me, I don't want to learn all there is to know about AI. Folks, I have never known very much about the actual workings of the product. What I've studied instead is the market demand for the product, the viability of the product, and actually creating a legitimate solution to a problem, pricing effectiveness, and distribution availability. That is what's produced $5 billion in career sales for me. Not because I've ever been an expert on any of the products I have sold. And I could not be, could I? If I tried to become an AI expert, it would very shortly be understood by all who are AI experts that I'm the emperor with no clothes. What I know how to do is create distribution. If you've been involved in direct selling, network marketing, what you know how to do is create distribution. This is the same, but bigger and better, and can be acted upon by many more. If you have always chosen to stay out of the network marketing industry, well, then for you, this is not the same, because now finally we have a product that countless people who do not want to be involved in the network, don't just want to use, but must use. And we recognize that there must be a compensation that is not network marketing derived, but is pure customer acquisition derived. If in fact one comes to truly know and understand all that Lev AI is right now, you will understand that this does fully benefit from every correct principle that has ever driven and fueled the historic success of the home-based business industry. It benefits from them all. You will also see that the various things which have been legitimately criticized over the years, they are not to be found here. They are not. One's entire impression of what it means to be a solopreneur, entrepreneur, home-based business developer, that can all change over the course of the next decade. What we're doing is providing distribution to a product that people must acquire. We're providing distribution of a product that is easier to use, more comprehensive. It is a global mandate, and we are creating opportunity for those who seek to be a conduit to other people's use. Every single thing about what we do is fundamentally right. It is valid. It's not just economically valid, but it also is correct in the eyes of what would be fundamentally right in the universe. For those reasons, my enthusiasm is unbelievably high, and my confidence is 100%. I will tell you, in fact, that I know the outcome. I just don't know the date of that outcome. I know the outcome. I just don't know who the primary award winners will be, but I know there will be award winners as a result of what we do. Let it be that you find here that which you are looking for, and that you're able to clear the decks and make, maybe for the first time in your life, a complete, total, absolute commitment to a process, recognizing that you were not here for the Industrial Revolution. In all likelihood, if you were here for the global adoption of computerization, probably you were not a catalyst in causing that to occur, and it didn't really change your world. My guess is that the advent of the internet has impacted your world for good in some respects and challenging ways in some respects. But my guess is that you didn't become one of the most wealthy people in your city or state because you were a conduit to other people's use. Now, all of those possibilities are available to you. The question is it the right time in your life to clear the decks, to freshen up some old knowledge, to gather some new knowledge, to develop a new skill or two, and perhaps refine a character attribute, such that you can be the conduit to other people's use of the technology they must have, earning royalties on it, and thereby changing the way your finances look forever? Folks, today I'm going to drive up to Idaho, where I'm going to attend a preliminary evening function for a celebration of life for a cousin of mine that I was close to in my youth, who was younger than me. He was younger than me, and now he's gone. And it gives me, and he died because his health was gone. And it gives me a moment of profound gratitude today for my own health and strength and continued good health, and for the magnitude of opportunity that allows me, that allows you, that allows us to do the work that is required today to produce income for a long time, in case the day comes when our families need that. God bless you all. Have the best day in history. Tonight, 9 o'clock Eastern, Blake will be online with me. It will be an important conversation. It'll be a revealing conversation. Please be here. And every single person who executed a pre-market application, get them there. Everyone who has already activated their account, get them there. And candidates who are considering whether or not this is for them, get them there. Our business launches phase 2 global operations tomorrow. These are important days, and every hour inside the day is important. If you come to understand that literally at every moment, a few of the grains of sand are filtering from the top of the glass to the hourglass, each time we make a catalyst message to one trying to decide where to go, how to behave in this environment, that attracts more leadership, and we get closer and closer to the time when this becomes something that you would have to run really, really, really hard to catch up to. Today, you don't have to run hard to catch up to it. Today, it is literally still taking on passengers and inviting you into the conductor's seat. Hop up there, grab the wheel. Talk to y'all soon. God bless and have a wonderful day.